Hey guys, you are listening to a free edition of DS Breaking News. Now, I don't usually do the show for free. This is usually behind the paywall over at thedirtysheets.com. Usually I do all of my news via the Wrestling Informer, but I've been promising a free show here on the Dirty Sheets looking at the WrestleMania situation. But a lot of the stuff I want to say about what's wrong with the WWE and what's wrong with WrestleMania can be covered under the umbrella of this title. And it centers around the Drew McIntyre situation. Now, as some people will know, over the years, through the UK scene and whatnot, I have had a relationship with Drew McIntyre. But it's important to stress that any friendship I have with Drew McIntyre is absolutely irrelevant to this story. Every bit of information that I have garnered to do this story, to bring you this episode of DS Breaking News, has been gathered independently. And if anything, it would be me revealing this information to Drew McIntyre as opposed to Drew McIntyre revealing any information to me, because the wrestlers are always in the dark and they always want to know what happened behind the scenes, why was their creative direction changed. And sometimes the only way to find that out is to actually have some sources behind the scenes. And as you guys know, over the years, I have those sources. I have primarily, over the years recently, used those sources to profit via the betting markets. I prefer to use my sources in order to gain information about things like who's going over at WrestleMania, who's going to win the Royal Rumble, because to be honest with you, sports gambling content is paying me a lot more than wrestling content. So when I do ask for information, I would prefer it to be something that I can monetize, as opposed to just clearing up some type of mistake that's been made by the likes of Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp. That is preferential to me because it's preferential to my clientele, and it results in more subscribers maintaining their subscription with me, either via thedirtysheets.com or via my lock betting service. So I prefer to find out what's happening at WrestleMania, who's going over in matches, specifically things like the Royal Rumble, where you can widely bet them, as opposed to actually just finding little bits of news. But I'm always on top of certain things like contract negotiations, when contracts are renewed, when contracts are going to expire, and also what people are being paid, because I do have a contact who deals across both companies. And it is widely known, because wrestlers aren't secretive about this, what certain people are being paid. Agents know what people are being paid, and it aids their negotiations, whether it be them going from WWE to AEW or from AEW to WWE. I have somebody who can aid me in finding that out. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was the person who published the entire list of AEW wages and was told by a very, very reliable source that they were almost 95% accurate. So yeah, I trust myself in these situations, and I certainly trust my sources. So what I want to talk about is this situation with Drew McIntyre dropping the WWE Championship, when it happened, why it happened, and the reaction to it online. Let's begin with the reaction to it online. Now, currently, Cody Rhodes' title win over Drew McIntyre is the most disliked title win in WWE history. It has over 180,000 dislikes, and it's going upwards at time of recording. Now, this is the most disliked title change of all time, and it is the second most disliked WWE video of all time. Now, conveniently, a story has been published talking about a guy who came onto Twitter and claimed that he had purchased 60,000 dislikes for this video for $250. Now, the interesting thing is that YouTube don't even publish their dislikes. You need to go to other sites to find them out, and they do have them available there. How reliable they are, I don't actually know, but they are able to be seen, and then those results are then publicly posted across social media. Well, this guy from social media claims that he purchased 60,000 dislikes. He came from absolutely nowhere, out of nowhere, like an RKO, just absolutely nowhere. This guy suddenly appeared and was also able to get enough traction. So He just posted this tweet and it managed to get enough engagement for everybody to see it and for it to be picked up by the dirt sheets. Now, do you know what the likelihood is of an absolutely dead account coming out of nowhere, making a claim like that, and then for it to be picked up by the dirt sheets? I am of the opinion that this was a paid-for account, an account maybe run by the WWE or certainly run by a Cody Rhodes supporter, which is likely to be WWE, which is something I'm going to come back round to. I believe that this was a fake account who bought these dislikes or claimed to buy these dislikes. And the reason they did that is because WWE saw the direction that this was going in and already anticipated a record number of dislikes. So what do you do when you're going to get a record number of dislikes and you don't want them because you want to send your champion into WrestleMania with positive momentum? You want him to be cheered as a babyface. You want to continue selling merchandise. You obviously want to shift these WrestleMania tickets. So what do? You try and shit on the dislikes. So you have somebody out there claiming that 60,000 dislikes were purchased so that people will dispute all of the other dislikes. Well, I got news for you. YouTube don't choose to publicly post the dislikes, but upon realizing that these were paid for by bots, YouTube would have removed these immediately. YouTube, if you actually use it, is now completely run by AI. So if you have a problem as a YouTube user, if you're a YouTube, not just a member, but somebody who actually runs a YouTube account, a content creator, it's almost impossible to get hold of a real person to deal with any issues. That's because in every area, YouTube is run by AI. Now, that's annoying as a creator, but it actually works very well in terms of eliminating things such as this. So had there really been bots that purchased dislikes and put them onto YouTube, it would have been absolutely pointless because they would have been filtered out. So the point is what you're seeing right there now is a genuine number of dislikes. No matter what narrative they want to release out there and they want you to believe. And when I say they, I believe that I am talking about the WWE. I believe that I'm more so talking about the WWE than some obsessed Cody Rhodes fan, and a Cody Rhodes fan that would be super intelligent, by the way, by even coming up with this whole thing. I believe more so that it would be down to WWE marketing, and WWE playing their hand in the background on the internet. That is truly what I believe. And this is obviously backed up by this entire situation when it centers around this title change, with the fact that it was a very, very late change, evidenced by the fact that when Drew McIntyre won this championship from Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre clearly said that it was in the contract that Cody Rhodes would go to the back of the line and that he needed to win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber. Cody Rhodes did neither. And there was no backup plan in place for Cody Rhodes to suddenly win the championship before WrestleMania as a way to get back into that match. Now, it is my understanding from speaking to sources, and I honestly would love to reveal who one of these people are because they're quite close to the situation, but I can't. But trust me, and I don't want to be the trust me bro guy, but trust me. A lot of this centers around the fact that the title change that originally happened in Berlin came about because WWE felt that Cody Rhodes had become a little bit stale and the title picture had become a little bit predictable and stale. And it was a Road Dogg pitch that came about where Road Dogg was in favor of switching up the belt and changing course for WrestleMania. Now, at the time, we knew the course for WrestleMania was Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns and Bron Breakker versus CM Punk. So that was the direction that we were going in for WrestleMania. WWE were aware already of the reaction to the leak that it was supposed to be Cody and Roman Reigns because it was a story that was correctly broken by Dave Meltzer. And it's not often I say that on shows, but Dave Meltzer was correct. They were doing Cody versus Roman 3. And they did know what the reaction to that was because, believe it or not, they are on social media. So as a result of the social media reaction, the very, very negative reaction to a third Roman versus Cody match, WWE decided to change direction. And this was also aided by the fact that Bron Breakker was injured. So Bron Breakker's win over CM Punk wasn't going to be happening at WrestleMania or wasn't going to be happening via him winning the Royal Rumble or anything like that. And obviously it turns out now that Breakker's injury was a lot more serious than they even thought at the time and has now required surgery that likely puts him out of WrestleMania. So the whole idea to crown Breakker at Mania, and then they were clearly building up towards that because they kept calling him a future main eventer way before he'd ever main evented any WrestleMania. So we know where they were going because Paul Heyman gives you spoilers, not predictions, and they need to be consistent with that as well. Otherwise, Heyman loses credibility. They changed the plans for WrestleMania based on the fact that they weren't sure about Breakker's availability. And there was a very, very lukewarm reception to Cody Rhodes versus Roman. So they pitched the change of direction from what I believe to be a change of direction pitched by Road Dogg, mainly Road Dogg, was to go in this direction to switch the belt over to Drew McIntyre, which was made very, very late on in the day. Now, all plans from that point were heading towards a triple threat match. It was clear as day on TV. Drew McIntyre had continued to engage with both wrestlers, but not only had Drew, Jacob, and Cody had interactions, but Cody and Jacob alone had interactions, adding more weight to the triple threat match. Because there was no finish to their match at Saturday night's main event, so the story between not only Drew and Jacob and Drew and Cody was left untold. The story between Cody and Jacob was also left wide open as well. It was all set to culminate in this triple threat match. Drew McIntyre was going to walk in as the champion and Cody Rhodes was going to win the Elimination Chamber. There was no place in this for Randy Orton. Randy Orton was set to go and have a separate match, most likely with Aleister Black. And Aleister Black has also been left out in the cold as a result of the change that they made. When did they make the change? According to my sources, they made the change exactly at the time when the Road Dogg walked out. Now, take that how you want to take it, but it is my understanding that Road Dogg got sick and tired of his ideas being shot down, obviously coupled with his very bad portrayal on WWE Unreal. So already there was a load of negativity being thrown towards the Road Dogg. And whilst the Road Dogg was being portrayed like that, he also had, at the same time, one of his ideas playing out on TV. Because it's his job as the head writer of SmackDown to actually have a big say in the direction of SmackDown. When it came about that WWE weren't actually going to follow through with his idea and decided to make the change at the last minute, it is believed that that is the same time that Road Dogg decided to walk out. Because if you're going to be portrayed badly on a WWE television show where WWE have full control of the editing, they have control over the final cut. Believe it or not, they do. Netflix did not put that out without WWE knowing what the final cut was going to look like. So after making Road Dogg look like a fool on TV and making Road Dogg look like a fool behind the scenes by doing his idea and then deciding not to do his idea, as if Road Dogg and his idea, as if McIntyre as champion were in some way to blame for the failure of the ticket sales, they decided to make the switch at the last minute to Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. And what you have right now in the wrestling media is a bunch of people who will not talk about the dislikes on the video. They will not talk about how unpopular the decision is. You only have to go onto Twitter for a few minutes and see how massively unpopular it is and how many people are pushing for Drew McIntyre with the "We Want Drew" hashtag. However, unlike the "We Want Cody" hashtag, this is seemingly being completely ignored by the main dirt sheets who control the internet wrestling community. These three people, as you know, are Mike Johnson, Sean Ross Sapp, and Dave Meltzer. Two of those guys have a very, very good relationship with Cody Rhodes. And if we go on even further than that, Cody Rhodes also has positive relationships with Conrad Thompson, and he also has a great relationship with Busted Open. Cody Rhodes is friends with the main faces in the wrestling media who control the narrative. This is a fact. And this is why you are not seeing fair coverage of what is actually being written on social media. And WWE are aware of it. But WWE also know that they have control of these people, whether it be via their media scrums or whether it be via giving these people access to WWE superstars. We know that WWE now have a relationship with Busted Open. We've seen main event stars go on Busted Open and do interviews with them, so they have full access. So they are not going to rock the boat by saying anything controversial or negative about the WWE. Instead, they will toe the WWE line, and the WWE directive and line right now is to say positive things about Cody Rhodes. So what you have out there is a biased wrestling media who were very, very happy and very, very willing to cover and push for We Want Cody Rhodes, but are sitting there silently and saying absolutely nothing about the whole We Want Drew stuff. Now, there are some YouTube channels talking about it, some smaller ones. BC Amplified is one that I listen to. They're going to town on it. The guy James from the UK, he's been open and honest about it as well. And obviously your lesser ones, if you talk about Bin Hameen and Vince Russo coming together, K100, where you guys know I worked for a couple of years. These are your honest wrestling media outlets, but they are not the biggest. The biggest have control of the narrative, and the narrative right now is to not mention the fact that the internet is outraged about this and they want to see Drew McIntyre in that main event, and simply to pretend that they are moving in the better direction and the more popular direction by delivering this Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton match that they already delivered at the King of the Ring, and you probably don't even remember it because it really wasn't that memorable. And this is consistent with what I know to be true from the wrestling media over the past couple of years. I can highlight an exact example of this that I know to be true. I was told categorically when Sean Ross Sapp wrote a story claiming that Cody Rhodes' merchandise was selling like hotcakes and that Cody Rhodes was head and shoulders above the rest as the biggest merchandise seller in the company, I 100% categorically knew that that was not true. Whilst on the other side, Dave Meltzer, who actually doesn't get on with Sean Ross Sapp, they don't have a good relationship. Meltzer's often criticised Sapp and vice versa. Meltzer, though, was also reporting that the ticket sales and the arenas that were being sold out at the time and the capacity for WWE to charge, ludicrous prices for these tickets was down to the popularity of Cody Rhodes, which is simply something that cannot be measured unless you're one of these people that just automatically give the credit to whomever the champion would be. But don't forget, Cody Rhodes dethroned a champion who carried the belt for nearly 4 years in one of the best runs ever. So there's obviously going to be momentum off the back of the TV when the Bloodline were the hottest thing that we've seen as far as a faction goes since the NWO. And then Cody Rhodes is the next man along. And already you have these fans who have been converted into wannabe ticket buyers. And Cody Rhodes then is obviously carrying that momentum forward. And Dave Meltzer has decided to give him the credit. I've not seen that with anybody else. But the Cody Rhodes biased media will do that. But let me go back to the Sapp story, because I did say I categorically know it not to be true. And one barometer of this is a piece of merchandise that is available for all main eventers. And you could use T-shirts. The problem with T-shirts is that Cody Rhodes, for example, has a number of different T-shirts. Someone like John Cena has a number of different T-shirts. And some guys only have 1 or 2 T-shirts available. And also when you're looking at different types of merchandise as well, among the main eventers, some people have caps, some people don't have caps, some people have dog tags, some people don't have dog tags. So it's very, very difficult to kind of gauge it from individual pieces of merchandise. But one thing that every single main eventer has, if you are in the top 3 stars on either Raw or SmackDown, you sell signed pictures, because these cost less than $1 to make. It costs less than $1 to print. In fact, they probably cost less than 25 cents to print. But they charge for them somewhere between $25 and $50, depending on how limited they are. If they are limited edition, if they are one of 1,000, for example, I recently picked up a one of 1,000 John Cena one when I went to Madison Square Garden. That was a $50 picture. So I had about 6 pictures in the 900s, because you can put these on eBay and you can pay $50 for them, but you can get $150 for them. So it was a no-brainer for me to get my hotel for New York paid off by selling a few John Cena pictures. So that's just what I did. But yeah, ultimately they're between 25 and 50. We know they cost like 25 cents to print, if that. And they have massive profit margins. And over the past year, my son has been collecting these pictures. He has Cody Rhodes, he has CM Punk, he has a few John Cenas, he has Jey Uso, he has LA Knight, and these have been the main stars. Now I believe there is an AJ Lee available. I've also been made aware that there was a Rhea Ripley available, but we've never seen a Rhea Ripley. So this is a good barometer in terms of who really is killing it in the merchandise department. Whose picture can you get at the end of the show? Because if the picture's still there at the end of the show, that means it hasn't sold very well. So from the naked eye alone, from arena experiences alone, I can tell you that to every show I've been to, I've always seen Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes pictures still available at the end of every show. I have never ever seen a CM Punk picture available at the end of the show, and I have never even seen a John Cena picture available up to an hour before the show. You actually have to get to the arena early. When John Cena was on that retirement tour, you needed to get there early, an hour and a half before the show started. As soon as the doors open, when they advertise the doors open at 6 and the show starts at 7:30, John Cena's signed pictures, those 1,000 pictures, would be sold out at every show by 6:30. So I decided to look into this, because initially, when we first sought after that picture, we were unable to get a John Cena. So I spoke to my sources about it and said, what's the situation with these pictures? And they said, John Cena's pictures are absolute hotcakes. CM Punk's pictures are absolute hotcakes. And what you're seeing is the truth. CM Punk's pictures outsell Cody Rhodes by 4-1. CM Punk, in fact, outsells Cody Rhodes in most areas of merchandising at around about 2-1. So whilst we were being given the narrative that Cody Rhodes was clearly the man responsible for the ticket sales, and that Cody Rhodes was clearly the number one merchandise seller, that was actually not true in any way. Now, I'm not saying Cody Rhodes merch was selling badly, but Cody Rhodes certainly wasn't number one on the house shows, and my understanding was he wasn't number one at WWE.com either. So, or WWE shop. So how did that story get out? Why did that story get out? I think it would be wrong to speculate and to suggest that through Cody Rhodes' friendships with the wrestling media, that he's the one feeding out the false information. I think that would be unfair to do that. But at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes is the number one beneficiary. But what could also be happening is that the wrestling media who control the narrative know that Cody Rhodes is friendly to them, and therefore there will be benefits of being friendly to him, because in return he will continue to be friendly to them. And the return of doing positive Cody Rhodes stories is Cody Rhodes directly feeding you with inside news information that nobody else could possibly know about other than the people in that room. And I'll give you an example of a story that I know had to be leaked by Cody Rhodes, because there was an incident at WrestlePalooza where I know that it was proposed that Drew McIntyre should win the championship. Cody Rhodes was going away, and the idea was for Drew McIntyre to win the championship because Cody Rhodes was still in the middle of filming, and that he could win the belt back at some point. So this was portrayed as Cody Rhodes pitching the idea to the creative team that he should lose the belt himself. Not the fact that it was pitched to him as a possible idea, but in fact that Cody Rhodes pitched it to them. In the end, the idea never happened. The company decided to keep the belt on Cody Rhodes, and Drew McIntyre suffered another loss at WrestlePalooza. The idea behind it wasn't necessarily to switch the belt because Cody Rhodes was taking time off or because they wanted to push Drew McIntyre. The actual idea internally, based on what I've been told, was to just give WWE a big shock for their first show on ESPN. So in actuality, it wasn't about either one of the guys. It was just down to shock value for the first show. But they decided not to do it. But ultimately, that was turned into Cody Rhodes being this unbelievable company guy who was pushing for the championship to drop the championship, pushing for the championship to switch, which was completely not the case. This was an idea that came about from the WWE by themselves. It was told to Cody, it was told to McIntyre, it was discussed, but ultimately they ended up making the decision to keep the championship on Cody Rhodes. At no point did Cody Rhodes offer to lose the championship or pitch it as an idea, but this is what you read in the dirt sheets. And it works the other way as well. In terms of trying to pour water on this negativity towards Cody Rhodes' title win, there is now a story out this week to take the heat away from Cody Rhodes, where they are saying that the main reason that Drew McIntyre dropped the championship was because he is filming Highlander after WrestleMania. They are claiming that Drew McIntyre won the belt and always knew that he wasn't carrying it into Mania. It was just a way to freshen up the main event scene. They are even lying to say that Cody Rhodes dropped the belt because Cody Rhodes is such a big star that by putting him in the Royal Rumble and in the Elimination Chamber, it drew more interest for those two matches. By having Cody in the Rumble and the Chamber, that made those matches more intriguing to fans. And after he was in them, he then went back and won his championship, which was always the plan because Drew McIntyre was going to film Highlander, and Drew McIntyre always knew that he wasn't walking into WrestleMania with the belt. That is complete and utter bullshit. Cody Rhodes being in those two matches does not sell one extra ticket. Cody Rhodes being in those two matches does not make any of those two matches in any way more interesting because they sell themselves. Both of them will lead to the number one contender for the championship at WrestleMania being determined. So the matches sell themselves. The Royal Rumble has never needed any one individual to be in it. And the Elimination Chamber is exactly the same. That story is made up bullshit. And again, it comes from Fightful. And again, Fightful have a relationship with Cody Rhodes. They have that Cody Rhodes bias to the point where they are doing two things with this story. Number one, they are diffusing the anger that's been caused by Drew McIntyre dropping the championship. And number two, they are putting over their friend Cody Rhodes, who obviously has a relationship with all of these dirt sheets from his time on the Indies, and fair play to him. He plays the politics game well. They are making him look like this massive name who sold more tickets for the Rumble and the Elimination Chamber by being in those matches, which is just simply not true. Drew McIntyre is going to go off and film Highlander, but Drew McIntyre is going to take less time to do that than Cody Rhodes took off to film Street Fighter. And prior to filming Street Fighter, Cody Rhodes won the fucking championship at SummerSlam and was written off the show for a number of weeks due to a concussion injury angle via a claymore through a table 5 days after he won the belt. But yet they're using Drew McIntyre's absence as a reason for him not to walk into WrestleMania and drop the belt at Mania when he's only not available after Mania. So why can he not walk in with the belt? How does that make sense? It only makes sense in this delusional, biased IWC community. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense anywhere else. So like I said, everything on this show has been sourced. I have had numerous conversations with my sources. If you've been listening to me for long enough, you know that I'm right about these things. You know that I've been proven right about these things. You don't accidentally get on to Sportskeeda. You don't accidentally work for Wrestling Inc. You don't accidentally work for Sportskeeda. You don't accidentally end up working with Russo and being on K100. The only thing I brought to those shows, other than my unbelievable personality, was my news. The thing that they wanted me for was the news. And every single one of them wanted to see first what the news was. Would that news come to fruition? After I developed a accuracy percentage, which convinced them to pull the trigger with me, that's how I ended up on those shows. Nobody blindly gave me a job just believing that I would come through with what I said, which is me being a news source who gives you accurate information, especially not at the beginning, especially not when I was on Wrestling Inc. or when I was working with Sportskeeda for a couple of years. That did not come about by accident or by luck or by them simply taking a chance on a random stranger without any evidence that I land these stories. I fucking land these stories 90% of the time. And for me to come on and do this show, and for me especially to give it out for free, because I know that it's going to be picked up by certain dirt sheets, I have 100% sourced all of this information. So to clarify, Cody Rhodes is not the number one merchandise seller that you've been told. Cody Rhodes is not responsible for shifting extra tickets to the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre was not told that he was having a short run with the belt and it was nothing to do with Highlander. Drew McIntyre's time away for Highlander is shorter than Cody Rhodes' time filming Street Fighter, and Cody Rhodes was given the belt whilst that was about to come up, whilst Drew McIntyre apparently can't even walk in as champion and drop it before he leaves. None of this makes sense. And the dislikes on YouTube are 100% legit, because they would 100% have been wiped out by now based on the AI technology used by YouTube. So that's everything I wanted to get out. And this is all sourced information. The Road Dogg thing, you can draw your own conclusions about that. For that, why a man walks out and leaves his job, obviously there's going to be a level of opinion attached to that. It can't ever be 100% fact to know what is going through someone's head unless he literally said, fuck you, this is the last straw, you're not doing my idea, now I'm done. That didn't happen. But the fact that Road Dogg was ridiculed on WWE Unreal or made to look stupid on WWE Unreal, and the fact that that coincided with his main storyline pitch for his show, SmackDown, being changed against his wishes, I think you can all draw your own conclusions when it comes to that entire situation. So that's it for me and this edition of DS Breaking News. Until next time, thanks for listening.